Cool. So changing gears here, I think we're out of the sort of formal presentation part, but there was a really cool project that just popped up earlier today, even from Jesse and Ezra in general chat. Instead of trying to intro it, maybe you guys could just chat about it and maybe frame to what you're looking for here: feedback, people to come help, maybe just testing the waters. But yeah, microphone's yours. Seems like a really cool track that you're going down.
Yeah, thanks Tim. We really love to share what we're doing. We've been working on it for a few months now, so we're maybe slightly out of date with what everybody else is doing. Now that we're heads up again, seen a lot of new projects that we'd love to integrate into what we're doing. But if it's okay, I'll share my screen and kind of talk everybody through it. And yeah, basically we're looking for feedback and just conversation about it at this point. But hopefully it'll spur that. So we posted this in the forum just like you said earlier today, and this really outlines the main points. So the name of the thing is The Grand Adventure, which it turns out is very close to the name of one of the things in the lore. That's an interesting point. And if anybody knows what Blazeball is, it's a little bit like Blazeball for loot. The explanation for what that is, if you don't know, is that this is a world. It's text. And stories are algorithmically generated that occur in this world. So they'll have consistent characters and settings, and the characters will go on adventures and discover new loot and new skills and traits and accomplish brave deeds and whatnot. And you can see these things happen. You can actually look here. You can see them as they come through. They'll get revealed over time as the stories happen. When the stories are done, each of them will actually be auctioned off as an NFT, which is totally reproducible on chain. And then past ones will appear in the logbook. This is just like a really early build of it. That's I'm probably going to want to improve this over the next few months. And the main goals we have for the idea are, one, to kind of create the foundation of a lively, emergent world that has all sorts of surprising things that happen and characters that develop over time, and hopefully provides a foundation for people that are interested to kind of add their own fan content in to the algorithmically generated story. So as the characters maybe do something surprising, fans can kind of fill in why that might have happened or what the backstory is and speculate on that. And then the second goal is to show that it's useful to build experiences around this content that don't require everybody to actually own the NFTs. So you don't need to own original loot to read these stories and be interested in them. And we think that that's pretty important for reaching a wider audience. But also we think it's positive for the original loot holders because these stories are reusing some of that same content. So you'll see loot show up, you'll see names show up, you'll see classes show up, and in the future we could reuse lots of other content. I'm really excited about the idea of using crypts and caverns in this as part of the stories. And totally, Tim, the more of that stuff, classes and rankings and the Genesis adventures could play cool roles in this story as kind of legends that people don't know very much about, things like that. So you don't need to own those NFTs to interact here, but I think that if something like this is interesting to people and that people want to get, that will actually pass its value to those original NFTs. They'll gain cultural significance. So hopefully that's an okay summary. I think it's something that's interesting for the first and kind of new. It's really great to see other people like the Crypt building, sort of complete experiences on top of this, and not just additional building blocks. So we're kind of in that category too, where it's just a complete experience. We're not funded or anything. We're just a team of people that are interested in this and want to explore these ideas. So we're really just looking for feedback and conversation about it. So you can see some links links dropped at the bottom of our post here, and I'll post this again in the general chat. And then I think Jesse was going to talk a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I was just going to go through the site a little bit more, in a little bit more detail. So this is, I guess, the premise of this is that we as a viewer or as a player are sort of in this town out of Newton. It's kind of on the edge of nowhere, and there's these 5 guilds that are all sending groups of adventurers out into the dungeons, into crypts and caverns, and not yet, but hopefully we'll be able to integrate with those, and looking for loot, and potentially bringing some back, potentially changing along the way. And so we can go look. We're in a little bit of a strange timing situation. We're between stories. Right now, the stories last for 11 hours, with then 1 hour between stories. So there's two stories every 24 hours. 11 hours. It takes them 11 hours to reveal, and those are all timed against block hashes. So there's no way to sort of predict the specifics of the story until the time has passed and we get a new block hash to be the random seed for that part of the story. And so it looks like this, and in this situation, there's, well, in 3 minutes, if people can hang out for 3 minutes, we'll maybe see the beginning of the story here. And then when they're done, they're auctioned for 30 minutes. The auction on this one has gone without any bids, and so it ends up in this logbook available to claim. So right now, this is first come, first served. This is live on Gorelli, however people pronounce that. And so this one is available to claim. There's a 10-minute slow cool down at the end, so I've been extending this auction here. So this is what the stories look like, or what this story looks like. These names are from Ezra. These are from the names loot contract, correct?
Yep, the character names are all from the names project, which seems to have disappeared. I don't know if anybody knows if there are people around from that project, but there's a lot of great names in there.
Yeah. And then obviously here, Mohandas has found Bleeding Hood, and Stani has found this Necklace of the Giants. And a few other things have happened in this story, and I've got this bid up here for 0.004 ETH, just to keep it open. But that's going to end in 3 minutes, and then it'll still show up in this logbook, but it won't be claimable. It'll be mintable by the winner. So yeah, that's the website. I guess, does anybody have any questions? Curious about what's going on. Can we kill a minute and a half and maybe see a story start?
Yeah, any questions or comments, feedback, I guess?
So can we go and bid on that now?
You absolutely can. Yep.
It's on Corley, so yeah. Obviously it's not in net or anything yet.
Might need some girly ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. The mad rush for Corley.
Yeah.
I've got a question to maybe kill some time. This is a question back at you guys.
Sure.
You obviously have put a lot of thought and energy and conviction into this. As you sit here and you present this, and it looks like you're at the stage of almost launching this. What are your final questions that are, or hypotheses that you're hoping to test, or your concerns, or just stuff that's sort of hanging you up right now?
Yeah, great question. I think my biggest question, my biggest hypothesis is I think when we set out to build this, we almost had a point we wanted to make or a theory that we wanted to test, and that's really about how, and that's a conversation that I've seen happen in this community for a bit now. How does something that's only owned by 8,000 people, how does that gain attention and gain value if like the thing that you can do with it is own it? So what we're hoping to do is build something that's interesting to non-lead holders, just sort of maybe even interesting to people who don't know anything about NFTs, who just kind of like the idea of these weird stories with weird coincidences. I know Baseball is like a weird, awkward, strange breakout success that's kind of turned into this Twitter yes and sort of collaborative fan fiction extravaganza. It's a very strange thing that's happened, but it's huge and cool and big, and we think that if something like that can happen here, it really gives a lot of value to things that are referenced in those stories. And so we're referencing, Linen Hood and Necklace of Giants here. If let's say this is the very first time that that Monica Woods did anything, and Monica Woods goes on to be the first person to ever slay a dragon in this world. The things that she has have sort of cult classic kind of subculture interest, and we think that that's going to bring value to the associated NFTs, because some portion of those people will want to own them, and will have money to spend on them. So that's kind of the thing we're testing, the thesis that we're testing here. Obviously, we have to build something that gains some interest, and we're hoping for feedback on that and maybe some help with that. We're working with the game designer as well, who has some good experience with that. So,
yeah. So it's probably that, and then kind of the obvious one of just are the stories kind of fun to read, and is it fun to follow along, basically, and fun to collect.
Yeah,
here we can see it's starting here. Now we got our first step.
Yeah, so this is the first step on this brand new adventure. This small group has gathered, consulting a guild. They choose their quest to retrieve the decrepit tome at the Craven Village. And then in 3.5 minutes, the narrator is going to sort of reveal the next portion of this, the first obstacle that this group meets, and that's randomly generated based on Black Ashes. That whatever Black Ashes comes in 4 minutes from now, so we can all kind of sit and watch it unfold together over the next 11 hours if we want to.
Hey guys, as somebody who doesn't know about Baseball, and this is fresh and cool to me, where does the player interaction come in? Like, are we watching as a spectator?
So right now,
or a way to influence it?
Yeah, you're just watching this, and you mostly just watch it in Baseball as well.
Yeah.
But right now, the only interaction with this is with the auctions. But in the future, what we'd like to do is basically let people that are participating or people that hold it already, like it should be a wide group of people. We do want to do beyond just neutral. There's also people that just click around or make an account or something like that. Basically let them vote in between sessions of stories. There might be a season of stories, and then you can vote on a bunch of mysterious changes to the world that are going to affect the next round of stories. So that's the kind of participation that we'd like to have in the future. There are going to be really fun games there too, like where maybe you can associate yourself with one of the guilds, and maybe the guilds can have some kind of friendly competition to see which guild gets the new, whatever dining room table.
Yeah. Yeah, or who recruits a new player, or when characters move from one guild to another.
Paladin adventure.
Yeah. So we definitely want we want to extend this in the future with sort of participation points. And baseball's only participation point is at the end of the season. The players vote on what sort of arcane changes to the baseball rules are going to happen. The very first one was, should we add relegation, some other kind of mundane thing, and then open the Forbidden Book? And of course everybody voted to open the Forbidden Book, which added weird weather like volcanoes and I think raining blood, something like that. But anyway, it's kind of a horror fantasy baseball that you watch unfold. That these sort of absurdist games unfold in real time on the website, kind of like this.
Cool stuff, guys.
Thank you.
Mega geek points. Geek squared here. It would be cool to see too how this could tie back to the Lootverse eventually, or not tie back, but like come back as like a primitive that other people could build on top of. So as this unfolds, it'd be cool to have this library of like sort of stories and maybe an infinite and ever-growing group of stories that have happened in the Lootverse to inspire other developers, other games, even just like creative works on top of this. I could even imagine the Lootverse is almost like voting on some of them. Like, that story is awesome. Let's make it canon. Let's invest some grants into like making it higher fidelity with some multimedia or something like that.
I think the kinds of things that we might see come from something like this would be like particular characters that kind of become community favorites, and then maybe people want to bring that character into their project and tell a story about that, or things like that.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for letting us talk, and we'll be around. We'd really love to hear people's feedback and see if this is something people would be into.
Yeah, and I'm almost always free, so don't feel like you're bugging me. Definitely ready to talk about this.
Are you going to be around in some of the Discords? That way we can discuss and maybe DM some ideas or catch up in one of the channels?
Yeah, I mean, we're both in this Discord, and we have our own Discord as well. It's linked in the post, so we'll definitely be around both of those places.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Loot, the platform that has birthed 1,000 Discords. Cool. Thanks for sharing, guys. I think those are the two things we had specifically planned here. We're about an hour in now. Open mic. Anybody who's working on loot stuff, loot projects, big or small, people who've presented before and just want to share any updates, individuals who are dancing around the edges and want to jump in, creative work, anything else within Lootverse that anybody else wants to talk about or share?
I think I briefly touched on it in the Realms town hall right before this one, but I'm doing some pretty extensive design language, motif, and cultural work on the orders to support Realms, and I think there's a lot of value in that can be added to the Lootverse as a whole, so just keep an eye out for that in the future.
Are you sharing that in the? Is that in the Realms Discord then? Like you're sharing
So
some of your work,
yes, it will be in the Realms Discord.
Okay.
Right now, I'm going to pass everything through the community first, make sure it's accepted. We're decentralized at heart, so I don't want to step on any toes. I get a little ambitious sometimes and start working on something, and so I definitely want to have the community rein me back a little bit. Sometimes is a good thing, but yes, it will be in the Realms Discord.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to know where to take a look.
Also, I don't know how many of the people in the call are in the Divine now, but I'll be sharing there as well.
Oh, awesome. Have you talked to Conway at all? Anderson from Divine?
Briefly on some of the things. I've picked their brain on the occasion for sure.
Okay. Because he's working on some order He's working on some artwork for the 16 Orders, so...
Conway is, the sigils that he posted.
Yeah. So I don't know if that overlaps with some of the work you're doing, or...
It absolutely does, and that's why I made a point of asking him some questions about what informed his decisions.
I remember seeing that. Okay, yeah.
But more to be determined, so just
Okay.
keep an eye on that space. And Genesis Scrolls is going to play a huge portion in that, spun up by Tim Shell over at GA. Definitely going to be a big part of that project as well.
Cool, that's actually a good transition to me. I wanted to present this real quick. I'm just going to do maybe 3 minutes of this update and then pass the mic back to anybody else who wants to share. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen, actually.
Oh, it's amazing. I love it.
Too many screens. Share a screen. All right, yeah, I'm really excited to share an update on the Genesis Scrolls project. If you don't know much about the Genesis project, we're a community of builders and writers and creators and just general loot geeks who've been on a mission to go backwards in the lootverse. Maybe I can even pull up the homepage here for a second. But to go backwards to sort of discover the origin story of the loot universe, where the 16 Orders came from, who the original Genesis characters were, what items they carried, what form they took. And that as a community, we're writing those things back to the blockchain. And so the main way that that's manifested itself is through the creation of these Genesis adventurers, which are characters who carry Genesis loot bags. And I preamble this to say that was like the first chapter, and I guess really the first 2 chapters of the Genesis project, was the game of distilling mana from bags and resurrecting the Genesis adventurers. And that game continues on. Every week there are new Genesis adventures created. It's a really positive community, really cool collaborative experience. Chapter 3 of this whole project, though, let me go to this page. Chapter 3 and 4 of this whole project took it beyond Genesis Adventures. Chapter 3 was a jump into this idea of A-time, and I'm not going to get into that today, but it's a ERC-20 that represents sort of the ability to manipulate time in and around the lootverse in our game, but also beyond our game. But Chapter 4 of this, which in some ways is like the culmination of the whole Genesis project, is the creation and discovery of this higher fidelity origin story of each of the 16 Orders. And in my mind, it had been out in the future, 6 months out, a year out, who knew? But things have accelerated so quickly in the lootverse, and there's been so much momentum around both the Genesis project, but also just the wider lootverse, that I'm pretty excited to announce that we've collectively decided that now is the time to launch the Genesis Scrolls project. It's going to be not just a Genesis project initiative, it's actually going to be a cross-lootverse initiative. We've talked with Divine DAO, with Realms, with obviously the Genesis community, and I think we can even get maybe the Loot DAO involved here as well, where the goal here is to create a project team, I'm not going to go through every word on here, but to create a project team of both project managers and maybe a dev or two is needed, and just sort of people who think and structure and can help organize things. Plus, of course, writers and artists and creators to come together to shepherd into existence the origin stories of each of the 16 Orders. The origin story of the Order of Power, the origin story of the Order of Fury, the origin story of the Order of the Fox, etc., in any form that we decide. So the format could be just short stories. The format might be NFTs cut up into mintable scraps. Maybe the format's multimedia, video content, maybe interactive content. The content itself could be anything we decide. It could be a first-person diary entry of a singular character, the first mage queen of the Order of the Fox. Maybe it's a full story with a third-person narrator. Maybe it's character studies. Maybe it's snippets and scraps. I think it's open to us as a community to decide what form they take. And then the output here is both the content, but also a canonical set of attributes that builders can then reference later on. So almost like Sportsbeard's contract. Imagine upgrading that Sportsbeard contract to have the 16 Orders, and then alongside the 16 Orders, some metadata that other projects can use. Dark and light, the paired order, a single word description, maybe the order's unique power, maybe SVG of the order symbol, so just like sort of a canonical reference table of the attributes of the 16 orders, as well as just like cool content, so a cool, compelling, entertaining set of stories that really breathe some more narrative life into the universe. So again, like I said, I've been really excited about this from the beginning of Loot. I was nerd sniped into Loot like in the first couple hours of this world, and I launched the Genesis project not even a week later, and I've had this in my mind, just like egging me on and inspiring me. And so I'm really excited to announce today on this call that we're now ready to take the next steps. We've got the beginnings of a budget set up. We haven't formalized this, but the plans to have about 80 ETH in the treasury, a collection of Genesis project assets, Divine DAO, realms. We'll make a proposal to the Loot DAO to do sort of like a public goods grant like we did the last one. Maybe there's other projects who also want to participate in this. And the idea is that this isn't just a Genesis project initiative. This is, again, cross-Lootverse. This is something that hopefully brings positive energy and excitement and high-quality content and foundational canon for creators, for artists, for creatives, for builders and projects from now forward forever. This isn't like the only interpretation of the 16 orders, but I think this will be a pretty well thought through, pretty canonically sound interpretation of those 16 orders in a way that can be sort of presented from within the Lootverse, created from within the Lootverse, and created by us, but also maybe, and this is a dream, but maybe through our collective energy, we could nerd snipe some of our legends, some of our heroes, some of our fantasy sci-fi folks into the mix with us. So not only should this be writers from our community, writers from Loot, writers from Realms, writers from Divine DAO, writers from the Genesis Project, writers from the wider sort of Web3 fantasy world. But maybe this project, if I'm going to hope and dream and try to manifest a dream here, maybe this project could be the bridge that bridges someone like Brandon Sanderson from his world, which is world building, fantasy writing, but traditional book publishing, bridges him into Web3. That again is maybe a dream, and maybe I'm thinking too big. To get Chin Lu to write the Order of the Fox would just like make my entire brain melt. But let's just leave it out there as an idea that this could be a bridge for us to reach out to the wider community of writers, of creators, of fantasy geeks. And the Genesis Scrolls initiative could be a bridge that brings more folks into our universe and becomes part of the community. I'm sharing this today to say I'm going to share this doc in a second, and that right now where we're at is that we're getting the team organized. There's a working team here that's got probably 10 of us in the mix already so far. We plan to do a kickoff call next week, and then do a cadence of calls maybe twice a week for probably the coming month or so. And then we're also going to get a budget set. We're going to do that per project. So get the Genesis project to vote on how much a grant we want to kick in. Realms will do a vote on how much of a grant Realms will kick in. Divine will do a vote on how much Divine will kick into this. Again, I'm going to suggest to the Loot DAO that we do a community vote about like a public goods funding of this project from the Loot DAO itself. And if anybody else on this call or any of the builders want to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I want to participate, I want to support this public initiative, the public goods initiative, I think just DM me for now, and then we'll turn it into a wider project team eventually. And then there's some operational stuff like deciding where this is going to happen. I think it will probably happen in the Divine DAO Discord, because Divine DAO has become kind of this like Venice for the Lootverse. It's the go-to spot for all the creatives, all the writers, all the artists of Lootverse coming together. And Divine DAO has kind of become like a fueling station for projects like this. So this is a perfect first cross Lootverse initiative to happen inside Divine DAO. But maybe we'll do some cool stuff where we can like collab land authenticate, whether you have a realm or whether you have a Genesis adventure or a loot bag or whatever, have that all happen inside the Divine DAO Discord. But anyway, that's kind of operational details. But for the moment right now, A, we're taking next steps in this project. B, we're organizing a team. And C, we're getting a budget set. So there's a proper sort of dedicated multi-sig, dedicated budget specifically to fund this and fuel this. The extent of this project is still TBD. So maybe this is 1 month and the output is writing and content, and we high five each other and say, "Cool, we did it. That's amazing. Let's move to the next thing." Or maybe this ends up being a long-term project where it starts out low fidelity, becomes higher fidelity with multimedia. And hell, maybe the freaking order of the fox makes a full feature like the movie at some point. I'm going to leave this up to us collectively to dream. And our goal here is to kickstart this, create a project team, sort of spark this fire across the Loopverse, and do this as a collective community. That was more than the 2 minutes I promised. But any feedback, any thoughts, questions, or even hand raising of folks who might want to get involved here?
I love this, and I'm excited about this.
So, are you looking for teams to form around, like pick an order and form a team?
I want to pick a project team for the whole initiative to shepherd the process, to sort of project manage the whole process, and then also manage the budget of this thing. And then if the project group says, "Hey, we're gonna chunk this out order by order and have separate teams work on the orders," then 2 thumbs up. That sounds good as an approach. If the project team decides to have a single writer take on an order, that's fine. And it'll probably be a diverse, different type of approach per order. So short answer is no, we don't need a separate dedicated project team per order. I'm mostly asking folks to raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to help project manage this concept into existence. And then from there, the next ask will be for writers and artists and creators to participate in the actual creation of the raw grid itself.
Good.
But for builders also, if you want to do some sort of grant into this multi-sig, I don't think anyone can expect anything back. It's not going to be a project that makes money, but it's definitely just positive vibes for the Loopverse. It's a new set of sort of composable primitives and content. Not even primitives, just composable content that can be used by builders across the Loopverse. And I think also something that will end up marketing Loop really nicely, because it'll actually be consumable. It'll be either readable stories, it'll be an NFT set of NFT collections, it'll be choose your own adventure, it'll be some sort of collaborative multimedia, and probably a mix of all those things. So I think this will be pretty good for all of us collectively. I shared the link in the main chat here too. Cool. Well, if you're interested in that, DM me. We already have a group of people who are obviously excited about this. If you're interested as a builder who wants to just participate in kind of funding this project, let us know. Or if you're just part of the Loop community and wants to help shepherd it into existence, want to help project manage it and build it, let me know. Or if you're a writer or creator and you just want to be considered, not even considered, if you want to be part of this as it comes into existence and have a seat at the table and raise your hand and say, I want to write some of this stuff myself. Amazing. So yeah, just to either do it in the general chat or just DM me. All right, next up, I think this is going to be the part where we move outside of Loopverse. Somebody in the main chat, sorry I forgot your name here, said they got something cool to share. Standard combo. So like I said before, this ends up sometimes flowing into just a Loop, or a wider Hyperverse conversation about cool stuff happening beyond Loop. Sounds like standard combo, you got something to share. Mike is yours.
Yeah, thanks. Hey everybody, I'm Standard Combo, and I wanted to show you guys what I've been working on. I created this leaderboard smart contract, which was inspired by everything I've seen here in the Loopverse, but also it's a starting point for me personally, getting into blockchain technology, and I have done some other stuff connected with Loot more directly, but it's not ready to be shared yet. So who am I? I'm a full-time game developer for several years now, have over 20 published games, and I made it as a professional ASCII artist. Yes, I actually make money from that. My most recent two projects are Stone Story RPG, which has been doing well on Steam. It's a indie game. And then Core is, I'm one of the co-creators of Core. It's a platform for game creation in 3D and stuff like that. It's a multiplayer engine. Why Loot? So, like you were saying, Nerd Snipe, I guess, is what happened to me as well. I was immediately attracted to Loot when I saw it. I only saw it very recently, but when I did, I saw that it had everything to do with what I had been doing the last few years with Stone Story and with Core. A lot of synergy. Loot is a project that has so much potential. Like, I can see it. Everyone can see it. I believe it's going to be huge. And this is just the beginning. So I'm really excited to contribute my part, what I can to make that happen. So why did I choose the leaderboard? Like I said, it's a technical starting point for me. I was looking for something that I could do in a couple of weeks that would actually be a positive contribution, could be useful. Tim was mentioning last week about building fireworks or castles, but I think someone has to do the plumbing as well, and I think a leaderboard can kind of be a foundational technological piece for not just loot games, but everything in the metaverse. I was thinking about this idea of decentralization and composition, and I think leaderboard is really a simple way to demonstrate the true power of those two things combined, where you have a leaderboard that is not owned by anybody. Now the blockchain has a leaderboard, is how I think about it. Not everybody can create their own, right, or has the time. You can just call this contract and you've got yourself a leaderboard.
Out of gas.
Well, leaderboards are really important for player retention, and they're a really simple way to retain players, to increase player engagement, make them come back to your game. So they're an important element of projects. And I wanted to make something that helps all the games for now and forever, and my own games. I can use this for my own games going forward. These are the design goals of the leaderboard component. Something that would be easy to integrate with, would have low gas, and it would work as a free service. It doesn't have any tokens or anything like that.
You sound more than because it's going to redo it from scratch. Did you sound like...
Wait,
Hello?
All right, I think I muted him.
Okay, thanks. Anonymity is important, I think. I didn't want to associate someone's address with their nickname. That was a concern I had in the beginning, so I added that to my list of design goals, and I'll show how that's handled. And one of the important things that I think I started to understand with blockchain technology is multi-tenant, going back to the concept of multi-tenant back-end services, to have a single contract that can serve for all kinds of applications, that is more generalized. And NFTs are already working this way. You have a single contract that generates 10,000 NFTs, right? You don't have a separate contract for each NFT. You have a single contract for all of them. So I think this is a really powerful concept, and that we can employ more into the Loot technology we're building, the Loot projects, because it's more valuable to do it this way for everyone than to just make a specialized contract that only works for your game. And I also wanted to make even though it's multi-tenant, be configurable per game somehow. Here's how it works. It works really simply. You have a game that has a front end and it's either calling some on-chain composed, backend, which has the game state and the game logic, or it can be a traditional, Web2 backend system that's making the decisions about the actions, and those submit the scores to the leaderboard contract, and then the client can call directly the leaderboard contract to get the leaderboard, and that receives the list of nicknames and scores back in sorted order. And then the player also can call this register nickname if they want to add their nickname to the leaderboard, and the players have control over what appears next to their score. So you could also use it to promote your project, put your name in there, or whatever, your Twitter handle. The basic usage, a little more, in terms of directionality. You call the create leaderboard, you get an ID back, and then you use the ID to submit the scores. And then the client software uses the ID to get the leaderboard. It's pretty straightforward. Here are some of the features. Y'all can see it later. I'll share the link in the general. And so what's next for this project? I am in the process of gathering feedback from the community. So if you guys would like to, look at the GitHub repository and give me feedback about the interface, about the code, I would love to receive your feedback, gather all that, and apply it to the contract in order to finalize and deploy it across the different networks. Of course, something like mainnet, this isn't going to work because you're going to have a lot of gas, but I would like to port this to StarkNet or perhaps some other L2s, which is why I'm really happy to see this discussion around this topic in the community at the moment, because this is something that I'm kind of waiting if everyone goes, hey, let's do it on this L2, I'm down, I'll build my stuff there too. And after I'm done with this, which will maybe take another week or two, I would like to build more pieces for the Loopverse and start moving more towards Loop itself. I have some stuff in the works, but there are some, I'm using some stuff that has some confidentiality issues at the moment that I'm resolving, so perhaps in a couple of weeks I'll be able to share some of the other more fireworks stuff I've been working on. And here's some of the links and the 2 contracts I have deployed on Robston and Coven already. Those are the 2 test nets that I've been playing with. Let me get this link into general. And I could demonstrate it working real quick. So this is the contract itself on Coven, and over here I have the same contract but on Robston. You can see so I have leaderboard ID number 3, and I did the query for get leaderboard, and it returned the 3 people and their scores. And then over here it's got me with 2 points. And then these other 2 are this example game that demonstrates how to integrate with from a smart contract game to integrate to the leaderboard. Create the leaderboard, submit scores, and then get. And then I could show it. So what I want to do here is increase the score for one of these people. So I'll just go to write contract, and I'll go to the game actually, connect. Oh, this is the ROMs thing. Okay, let's switch. There we go. I'm going to click earn point. And that should go through pretty soon. And that's it for my presentation. So here's the repo. I'll share the link for that as well. And let me know if y'all have any questions or comments.
Hey, I think I got a quick question there. The earn point thing that you just called, that's incrementing the score that's stored for that user, right?
Yeah, it just goes up by 1 each time you call.
Okay, so they can't just send like 9,999, say, and send their score. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Well, yeah. So this is the kind of the abstraction of what your game logic would be. Whatever logic for determining points your game would be. Here, it just increases by 1, which is kind of silly. But okay, so it looks like the transaction went through. So standard combo jumps to number 1 on the leaderboard with 4 points, and I could then decide to change my nickname if I want to.
The idea there is we could plug in our own game logic at that point where yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened here. I'll investigate. But yeah, the example game is just to demonstrate the information, and then the leaderboard is has all the meat of what's actually happening, and does all the operations actually. Here it only has the earn point. Not sure if I understood the question.
Yeah, I was just trying to get my head around the kind of validation rules that leaderboard can have, in order to see that an incoming score is a valid score. But that all seems to go into that contract there.
So the only validation the leaderboard does is it only accepts score changes from the owner of the leaderboard. So a player can't set their score on the leaderboard. The player would have to call a service on the game that they're playing, and then the game calls the leaderboard and sets the score.
Got you. Yeah, sure.
That's up to the game to determine.
Hey, I'm actually doing something for on-chain arcade. So I really see some use cases of the scoreboard. I'd love to chat with you after.
Yeah, I'd love to see if you have comments or questions about the API. It's up on the GitHub. Thanks, everyone.
I've got one more quick question. Have you built anything to cross-reference a player's scores across multiple games? So I can imagine a front end to your leaderboards, so you could track your scores across multiple games.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Anybody can call the get leaderboard for just giving the IDs of all the leaderboards, and so you could from a website see all the leaderboards that person has, I guess.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, the leaderboards don't have any identity built into the state. They just have an ID. The game would provide the identity.
Very cool. Standard, where should people further the conversation with you? Just in Discord, DMs, or do you have a Twitter you can share or anything?
Yeah, it's @StandardCombo is my Twitter. You can DM me in Discord or ping me in the Builder Creator channel as well.
Okay, Builders, Creators, great.
Yeah, any of those works for me.
Awesome. Well, if nobody has any more questions for Standard, I think we're going to end. Quite a few people have dropped off. Tim is gone. I got to jump off here. All right.
Sounds good.
Let's end it. Yeah, thanks guys for joining. Thanks everyone for, Ezra and Jesse and Standard for coming on and with your new projects. It's always amazing to me, all these projects coming out of the woodwork every week. Just working on some really fun things. So thanks for thanks for jumping on and putting yourself out there and sharing your work. We'd love to see it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.